Good day everyone, welcome back. This is Lorenzo with a mission a day, episode number 7. Today we are going to look at the mission controller plugin and see what the future will have for us. So far we have been to orbit, we have been to the moon and Minmus, albeit unmanned. And if we have a look at the mission overview, we can see here there is a mission for Minmus to land there, a Sputnik mission to put a probe in orbit, a mission to put a probe in solar orbit, and onwards and upwards. But the connecting theme of all these missions is that they are... Hey, there's a mission to Juna here. I did not see that before. Anyway, apart from this Juna mission, all these missions revolve around Kerbin, the Kerbin system, the moon, some solar orbits, mostly ComSat contracts. And this is not the direction I want the show to head in. I want to go out into the solar system, go interplanetary, make stations, make bases, and gather science from the faraway celestial bodies. So I pondered maybe I can find a mission pack that has some missions for that, but then I thought no, that would be cheating of a kind. I've made this mission controller plugin and I'm going to stick by the restrictions it will give me. However, I'm not completely bound by the mission controller plugin. As long as I have the money, and I have 217 cronies for whatever I wish to do with it. I also see the plugin is now disabled. Let's enable that back. As long as I have the money, I can do missions on my own accord, as long as I keep enough money to fund the rocket that will bring in money. So I decided now I want to bring back soil samples from Minmus and the moon, and we are going to combine this with this Minmus lander mission. It specifies it wants an unmanned landing, but I reason if I put a manned capsule on Minmus, they will be happy. So that's what we're going to do today. I've selected the mission and I will show you the ship I have made for this. It costs about the same as the mission payout. The mission payout for this is 95,000 crowns, and our mission 7 craft costs, if I recall correctly, about 90,000. We can look in the plugin here, it costs 93,000, so just for the money, if all goes well, we will not make a whole lot of it. But we will have, if all goes well, soil samples from the moon and Minmus, something I hope will give us a lot of science to unlock better rockets, better parts, and of course it's a huge achievement. So onto the rocket here, we have our lander here. It's got 2 material bays, 2 batteries, some solar panels, some antenna, some goo containers, and 4 small fuel tanks and 1 medium fuel tank, all linked together by the brand new fuel ducts that were unlocked yesterday or day before yesterday if I recall. And we have the small lander engine. This engine by itself will not be enough to comfortably land a full lander on the moon. We'll be going to Minmus first, and to do that I have made a slightly larger lift stage than was used on the previous missions. I hope it will be enough. I'm not using Kerbal Engineer or anything like that to determine delta V's. We have 3 central stacks, but now with the fuel ducts the outer stacks are feeding into the central one, and when everything is decoupled the center one will be left with full tanks. Also helping this are 4 big SRBs. They will fire all at once at the beginning, saving liquid fuel for later on. This all sounds fine and dandy, I'm sure, but we're going to go to the launch pad and see how that works out. So the plan for this mission is to go to Minmus first, land there, take off from Minmus again, land on the moon, and then go back to Kerbin. We don't have docking ports yet in our tech tree, so this lander will be self-contained. So this was slightly wobbly on the launch clamps. They are quite expensive, they're about 1,500 each, so I only used 2 and I think I just got away with that. So here comes the launch, and as usual, if nothing strange happens, this will be fast forwarded. See you in space. and there we are, in space, in orbit, making the burn for Minmus. As you saw, maybe you saw it in the fast forwarded maneuver node planning, this is not the most efficient way to get to Minmus. I'm going far too high first, but the extra delta V expenditure between this altitude and this altitude is actually fairly low, because you're going from very high to even a little bit higher. The extra amount of gravity you need to escape is low, therefore the amount of delta V is also low. What is being wasted is a lot of time, but fortunately we've got time acceleration for that, so I'm not worrying about that too much. Now, while we do this transfer burn, let me tell you a little bit more about the future of this series. As I said in the intro of this video, I wanted to go to some far out celestial bodies, and I was considering which one I was going to go to. I could go to Juna, it's the Mars analog, and it is fun to, it gives me the opportunity to talk about Curiosity the rover, some actual science. But then I thought, I've been to Juna a few times, I reckon most people have, it's the obvious place to go. So I thought, I'll randomize it, I'll leave it up to chance where I'll go. So I put all the celestial objects of Kerbin in a list. Came up with 12 objects. I didn't include Kerbin itself, obviously. I didn't include Joule, didn't include the Sun, didn't include Moon or Minmus, they are too close. And then I rolled the dice and decided to go to whichever celestial object that it was going to be, and it turned out to be Val, one of Joule's moons. I know very little about Val. I've never landed there in the game myself, not in the video, not in other playtime. I think it's a fairly massive moon with no atmosphere, but I'm not even sure about that, so we shall go about discovering these things as an actual space program might. We will send probes there, find out, and focus to try to establish bases, orbital stations, all those good things around Val. Now, as you will have no doubt noticed, there are 0 missions to Val in the mission controller plugin, so we will be piggybacking most of these missions on actual mission controller plugins. So for instance, our probe could use the mission controller mission to put a probe around the Sun. It will happen to go to Joule and Val as well, but the people funding the program need not know our ulterior, they need to know our agenda. They don't have to be privy to our ulterior motives. Something went very wrong in the transfer burn. We are now on a Kerbin escape trajectory instead of a Minmus intercept, so I'm going to try and fine-tune this orbit with a course correction, see if we can make it intercept Minmus at all. Yes, we need a little bit of braking. Oh, now we need, apparently we just did a massive waste of delta V. We need to go a bit slower. We overshot our burn only by about 12 meters per second, so in total we will have wasted about 25 meters per second of delta V. We still have about 2/3 in our tanks, and we have expended a good 1000 meters per second of delta V. I'm very confident that we can do a Minmus landing, and depending on how well that goes, we will either abort the moon landing or proceed with that. In the worst case scenario, our guys will, well, in the worst case scenario, our guys will crash and die, but in the likely worst case scenario, they will end up stranded on the moon. This is of course not ideal, but they will be alive, there will be science, it will just not be returned to Kerbin. So, going to fine-tune the trajectory now. We'll fast forward the rest and I will see you in Minmus orbit. Yeah, it looks like we are going to be landing on Minmus's pole, which is completely fine by me. We are going to fast forward until we're low onto the surface of Minmus. Oh wait, we could also... No, we're going to attempt a landing on the equator. No, we're going to attempt a landing on the pole because that's awesome. I reckon Minmus is small enough to arbitrarily decide our ejection vector anyway, so that should be fine. And this landscape looks very hospitable, why not? So here we are approaching the Minmus landscape. Here these lakes, or whatever they are very flat. They are the ideal landing site, but science is not always done in the most ideal of places, so we don't care about that. So we're going down to 17 kilometers here. See if we can get some novel science here from the materials bay. Yes, while in space near Minmus. This is new. We only did this once or twice yet, but yeah, with the crashing probe, in fact. That crashed. This one is definitely going to land. So we have a little bit more time to get the science and transmit it. Now, I have a feeling that you can completely max out the science points by just transmitting and transmitting and transmitting. I don't really feel that is a particularly nice way to go about it. So while I will transmit multiple times to get some points, I will not go to the point of milking it completely dry. And of course things like surface samples I want to bring back. What I'm completely forgetting this mission is to ask Jeb for crew reports. I have been completely accustomed to doing unmanned missions, and this guy gets to give his reports for 20 science points at 100 transmission rate. So I'm going to transmit that. 20 cool science points, and he is also going to pop outside of the capsule and give us an EVA report of the situation. EVA report recorded the observation about the situation. Great, we're going to keep that data and store the experiments and go back inside. We're not going to transmit this because we do plan on returning to Kerbin, and we can give them back for full science points. I have a feeling we will be science point rich after this mission. So we are about at our periapsis here, so we can start our braking maneuver. We are going to switch to surface mode. It's a whopping 2 meters per second difference, not a huge rotation speed Minmus has. So we're going to basically completely kill our velocity and drop straight down to do a landing and do some science. And of course we will also be planting our flag, because Minmus is now ours. Why not? All through this landing sequence I will give you a little bit of fast forward, because with the low gravity of Minmus it is going to take a while. See you on the surface. And we're coming in for the landing here. It's a bit steep. I hope we can stay upright. Don't fall over, please. Going to use a little bit of the pod torque. But no, we are landed on the surface of Minmus. A great success if you do ask me, and it is time to do all the science. You observe the goo from Minmus's surface. This is a lot. We're going to do one transmission of this, and then we're going to bring the rest of it back. This is why we brought this goo container. Observe the mystery goo, and this is going to stay like this. Keep that data. Same with the materials bay. We're going to do one transmission, and we're going to take the rest back. Wow. How much Minmus looks like mint dessert, and have discovered that you are now hungry. Wow, I'm hungry apparently. Great. So, going to transmit the findings and observe it, and keep one of these findings. Keep the data. So that's the goo and the materials bay. Gonna go for a crew report of Jebediah, Minmus's surface. We can transmit that as well. This goes for 100 science points, and now comes the important bit. Put Jeb on an EVA, where he will use his jetpack to float over to Minmus. See if it is in fact mint ice cream. Wow, Minmus's gravity is so low that one push on the joystick will send you rocketing up. Now this is a good vista, isn't it? I'm going to make a screenshot of this for the thumbnail. I think it's a good thumbnail. A lighted spacecraft with Jeb on the surface. First we're going to plant the flag. This is important. And we are going to call it Minmus Mine. It's mine. Got it. Now, I'm going to walk over to a novel site. Wow, it's more jumping than walking. And gather some ground samples. Very important. Take a surface sample. The surface seems to consist of tiny crystal-like grains. Very pretty. Probably not edible. Great. We're going to keep that data, bring it back home for a lot of science points. And of course we're going to bring the EVA report. You feel a bit like a superhero when you jump in the low gravity. I can imagine that. So, having done all of that, turn the jetpack back on. We're going to jetpack right back into the rocket, into our lander, and see if we cannot make it to the moon. I am divided as to the feasibility of that. We have about half the fuel left, a little bit less. We have expended about 1,000 meters per second of delta V, more even. Entering orbit around the moon will take some delta V as well we're landing and then getting back to Kerbin. I think we're gonna go for it because this craft is getting lighter with every second we burn, and that means we will get more delta V out of it. We do have some inert mass on it, the science pods, the batteries. That is of course not getting any lighter as we progress, but first things first, let's try and get some kind of intercept with the moon going. So first we are going to get off Minmus. If we launch off here in an easterly direction, I'm not even going to use the compass for this. I'm just going to take off. The gravity is so low that we can just sort of do it, I hope. So here goes. Retract the landing pods, leave the flag behind, and blast off. Let's establish a 80 meter per second speed and see what that does for us. Here we're not quite, oh, this is completely the wrong direction, but now at least we can use a maneuver node and see what we are going to have to do. Yes, no, this is probably not the best way. And we know we want to escape tangentially to our velocity, so we can just do that. This is prograde, and we want to head away from the pole, so we are going to go for the southerly one. This one. This is rocket science at its finest. You just look at the compass, guess a direction, and push the throttle. I can tell you it works great every time. I'm gonna go up, slightly up, but more in this direction, to see what our trajectory is like now. And yeah, if we continue in this way, we will end up somewhat in the plane of the moon, probably. So I'm just going to push it until we reach escape velocity in this direction, and that should not be too long at all. At least I don't think. So cut the throttle, see what we have. Wow, I am the best at rocket science guessing. We now have a encounter with the moon immediately. Great. So I'm going to go there, establish orbit, and fast forward all the way there. See you there. No, before that I'm going to get an EVA report in space high over Minmus with Jep. Anyway, I'm going to fast forward all that. See you there, and hopefully we'll have enough delta V to do more science. Right, what you saw me consider was reverting the game. I'm not going to do that. What happened was I was too eager, yes, let's call it eager, on the time acceleration, and I overshot the window. We went to the moon, we looked at it, Jeb apparently was asleep and didn't engage the rocket. So we're now on a Kerbin escape trajectory. If we do nothing, we will leave forever. So we're going to do the only thing Jeb can think about is turn the rocket around and gun it and see what happens to the trajectory. If we can make a moon encounter without expending too much delta V, we will do that, and otherwise we will be forced to head back into Kerbin. I am a little bit worried because we are going incredibly fast. Far faster than we should be going at this point. I'm not sure if that was a glitch or if we actually got an amazing gravity assist from both Kerbin and the moon. But we are going to try and get out of this. And otherwise, I'm afraid we will have learned a lesson on the dangers of time acceleration. And Jeb will end up having to transmit all of his data. And then be lost forever. That would of course not be a great ending to the mission. We did finish the current mission by being on Minmus. Saying the word Minmus made me wonder about that. Something has happened to the controls. Everything is going spectacularly wrong this mission after the Minmus escape at any rate. I hope... No, we are not going to be able to throttle this back. I don't think we will be. I'm going to try, and otherwise Jebediah will be lost. No. We have a Mooner encounter here. How? I don't know. Yes. Oh, we're just braking. We have a Mooner encounter now here. This will for sure not be enough fuel to actually land on the moon, but hopefully it will be enough to reduce our trajectory to land on Kerbin. We are now burning the last dregs of our fuel in the perhaps futile hope to get back home. It would be amazing if that turned out to be a possibility. Jebediah is oblivious of all this. He is very happy. I will be incredibly annoyed if we do not manage to bring the surface sample of Minmus and everything home. It was awesome. We got so many rocks. We got so many canisters of goo and materials experiments. We have to get this home. Fortunately, this tiny rocket packs a huge amount of Delta V in its last amounts of fuel. And I'm quite sure there has to have been a glitch increasing my speed this much. You cannot get that high of a gravity assist from the moon. Something very strange definitely occurred. And I'm going to have to reduce speed so much. This is not going to work. I don't think it will. The fuel will run out before we are going to get back to Kerbin. I'm quite sure of it. It's basically still heading straight out of the system, except a fair amount slower. And our fuel is gone. I have no idea what exactly happened. I'm not going to revert it. That would be cheating in my opinion. If we even can revert still. We can revert. Leaving the solar system unfairly, sacrificing Jebediah. Or biting the bullet and not reverting it. No, I'm not going to revert it. That leaves transmission of all this data, along with a farewell letter of Jebediah's. So we are going to review the stored data, transmit the EVA report, transmission done, transmit this. We can get 50% of the surface sample. That's quite good still, but of course it stinks not being able to land back home. Transmitting the EVA report from Minmus's surface. It's quite large. Get the 20 points here. Going to transmit this. And we got a lot of science for that. So I'm going to ask Jeb for a report here now. You look at the surface of the moon and try to find a good landing space. Inside of the craters might be the best option. I do agree, but we have no fuel to even attempt this. Disaster has struck. Now we can transmit this home as well. Transmit the goo canister. We can transmit this materials bay. Transmit the 20% of that. And we can of course do more science here. Transmit this material bay. Doing another mystery goo observation. Not enough electric charge. All the electric charge is gone. What Jebediah can do for us is to transmit back some science from a solar orbit. This was definitely not the mission plan, but he will gladly do it as long as he's being sacrificed anyway. I'm very sorry, Jebediah. How am I accelerating? We are currently relative to the surface, right? We're in surface mode. Oh, and that also the erroneous speed I was worried about was not erroneous at all. It was surface relative. So we did not manage to get back. We got a good sling from the moon and should have gone into orbit from it. Anyway, lessons learned. Be careful with your time acceleration, kids. And we are now in solar orbit, far away from Kerbin. Jebediah still doesn't realize what's going on, or he really likes it. Anyway, we are going to do another full complement of science experiments, and then we are going to have to leave Jebediah, pioneer astronaut, behind, much as that hurts. Wow, we get a lot of science points for the materials bay in solar orbit. Always look on the bright side of things. We are getting a ton of science done, perhaps almost as much as we would have had we completed the mission. We are unfortunately forced to sacrifice Jebediah. And the last bit of science he's going to do is by stepping out in EVA. Wait, he can store his experiments. EVA report. You feel kind of small right now. You hope you know where you're going. I'm sorry, Jebediah, you have no idea. Okay, so now he's going to transmit that experiment back home, and then we are going to leave him behind. Sadly, we're not going to end the flight or scrap the vessel or whatever. We're going to leave him out here. Perhaps someday, somehow, somewhere, we will be able to rescue him. His orbit sort of intersects Eve's orbit. So maybe in the future we can go and say hi. It will be a very difficult rescue mission, but it is Jebediah, so perhaps one day we will rescue him. For now we're going to the Space Center, see what science we did get. Money-wise we haven't improved a lot at all. Most of it was spent on the craft. We failed half our mission objectives, we did not land on the moon, and more importantly we didn't even bring Jebediah back. We do have 680 science points, so in that regard the mission was a grand success, and with the decision of Val as our exploration target, we will be wanting to get first probes to send there, so we want the tiny rocketry, and then the big rockets, the big efficient rockets, perhaps nuclear rockets, to get us there. So with these science points we're first getting the precision engineering pack, getting us probes, getting us tiny engines, tiny fuel tanks, basically everything we are used to, but smaller. So we have that, and let's have a review of what we can get. Here is the advanced construction, the larger rockets. We will want to get this as well. We have the science points to spare anyway. We will be using larger and larger rockets. Specialized construction. This has docking ports. We will be needing docking ports for sure, because we'll be using orbital rendezvous and docking for that by making spaceships, making space stations, making large ships, and possibly refueling somewhere. So aerodynamics, we still don't want that. We still don't want the advanced flight control. No, don't need it. We do need it. We want a small probe core. Yeah, we want it. 90 science points. Yes, please. Thermometer, we definitely want that. Our mission controller probe missions require these things, so we might as well get them out of the way. Want this. And we don't need the landing struts, the micro landing struts, and the gear bay. Don't need that. Here is an advanced exploration packages, another sensor. We need that, but we're running low on science, so we're gonna save that for a bit later. Advanced electrics. This is a pun for the IBM guy that said no one needs more than 64 kilobytes of RAM. No one will need more than 64 kilowatts of power. Great, that's a nice joke. And here at the rocket end, we have a bigger engine and some bigger tanks. I want to get the sensors first. These will give us more science. So I get these sensors. Oh, command seats. Rovers. Rovers, this goes on to rovers. But we are now down to 88 science points. So we cannot get any of this. Unmanned. Even more probe cores. How's that? Megatin traces of sentience. Pretty good. Our 88 science points are, for all intents and purposes, useless. So we have a bunch of extra sensors for getting more science, obviously. And now we can have a look at what mission we want to do tomorrow. Mission already finished, we cannot do this. We are basically stuck with the Sputnik mission, which requires more sensors than we have. So we're forced here. Well, yeah, we are forced here to do science missions out of our own pocket to unlock these sensors, and then we can proceed in the mission tree. So I think we are going to retry today's missions, get some science back from Minmus, get some science back from the moon, and unlock those sensors so we can proceed to make money. This is actually fairly exciting because our mission costs 90,000. We'll be able to do 2 or 3 more launches, and then we really need to do that mission that requires the technology. So unfortunately we lost Jebediah, but excitement abound. Before leaving, let us recruit. This is not a recruitment center. Let us recruit a new astronaut that will take the place of Jebediah. He will not be forgotten, he will merely be replaced. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to end. Where is that? The astronaut complex. Here it is. We are going to get Kearney Kerman, a very stupid, courageous Kerman with a great name. Kearney, you are the replacement for Jebediah. Be proud of it. So that was today's mission. Not a resounding success, but progress has definitely been made. Tomorrow we will do this again. Most of that will be very much fast forwarded because I've said most of the things I wanted to say about Minmus. Anyway, have a look at that tomorrow. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed it, be sure to like it, share it, subscribe to it, and all those good things. For now, have a nice day. This was Lorenzo. Goodbye.